morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, our voice of radio. So today, we need to take a look at Crobat VMAX. Yeah, that's right. We didn't really expect Crobat to be getting a VMAX. That's not something that was really on our radar, but turns out Crobat's getting a VMAX. And the weird thing here is, of course, as I'm sure anyone with even a passing interest in the game is aware of at this stage, Crobat sees a lot of play. And when I say a lot of play, I mean a redonkulous amount of play. It's one of the very, very best cards in the entire game. So then we get to the rather interesting question of what happens when we take this amazing support Pokemon, which is played as a support Pokemon, and go ahead and give it a VMAX. Well, let's take a look, shall we? So our translation here, shockingly enough, comes from the lovely Antoine Boulet. And if we start off with the basics, 300 HP on a VMAX is low. It is down there with stuff like Morpeko VMAX. It is basically as low as VMAXs get. You got a retreat cost of 1, which is nice because of the whole U-turn board thing, which we like. And a weakness to fighting, and honestly, we've still got Eternatus. And we've still got Pikachu. And there's just too many good cards that are weak to fighting right now, not to mention Crobat V that basically everyone's playing, so I do feel like it's still going to be a pretty bad weakness to be having. And then, of course, we've got a Darkness Pokemon. And Darkness Pokemon's quite nice. Don't forget, we've still got Black Market Prism Star in the format. So if you've got a Darkness Energy attached and you get KO'd, you give up 1 fewer prize, which is quite nice. You are hitting weakness on Dragapult, but honestly, Dragapult, since Darkness Ablaze came out, largely due to stuff like Eternatus, Dragapult has completely dropped off the map. As in, I faced, I think, 0 of them in all 50 of my Players' Cup qualifying events. It is just not a deck that's out there or relevant right now. Might come back, and if it does, yay. Otherwise, boo. So basics-wise, we're not huge fans, but it's got attacks, actual attacks. What does it do? Well, the first attack here for 1 darkness, 1 colorless energy, Stealth Poison. 70 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. Switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. Oh, I kind of like that. I wish it was a single energy attack, but 2 energy is eminently payable. We can use any kind of energy acceleration. You can even use Turbo Patch as long as you do it before you VMAX. Remember, Turbo Patch lets you on a coin flip attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your basic non-GX Pokemon. So it absolutely will work with Pokemon Vs, but it absolutely will not work with Pokemon VMAXs. You have been warned. So the energy-wise is fine, and there's a few things going on. I mean, the 70 damage is largely terrible. You'll get, like, Jirachi, woo! But that's basically it. But you got poison, so that 70 damage turns into 80 damage, which is not terribly relevant. Honestly, 80 HP is not a big number right now. 70 is. 70 is a key number. 80 really isn't, unfortunately. But of course, let's not forget that we've got Toxicroak at the moment, the one that came out in Sword and Shield. And the Toxicroak that came out in Sword and Shield has the ability that puts 2 extra damage counters on your opponent's poison Pokemon between turns, or during Pokemon Checkup as it is now known, though no one's actually using that phrasing. And that means that it's not actually 80 damage, it's now 100 damage with 1 Toxicroak, 120 with 2 Toxicroak, etc. But it just keeps building up. So you hit them for 70, but you got 2 Toxicroak down, so now they take 5 damage counters. And if they don't get out the active, they then take 5 damage counters. And then after your turn, they take 5 damage counters. And if you've got, say, 2 Toxicroak down, then over 2 turns, you're actually hitting 290 damage. You got 2 attacks for 70, and then 3 lots of 50 for poison. 50 after yours, 50 after theirs, 50 after yours. So that's 290 in total, and that's pretty huge. That's like Arceus and Alga and Palkia huge. And of course, if you can hit them before they use a GX attack, then they have to switch out the active and then get back in the active, or else they'll get KO'd and give up free prizes after using the GX attack, which is not what they're going for. So it could be kind of good, but it takes a lot of investment. It's 2 energy, you've got to have your Toxicroak out, etc. The thing is, it's a hit and run attack. So you can put Lily's Pokédoll in the active, and if your opponent takes a KO, they don't take a prize. Or you can put Galarian Casola in the active, and then if your opponent takes a KO, they've got to flip a coin, and if heads, they get KO'd as well. There are other Pokemon you can use for hitting and running, but these are by far my two favourites at the moment, which is quite nice. Don't forget, Galarian Weezing would be another one we could use. That turns off abilities while it's in the active, so you flick to Galarian Weezing and turn off your opponent's abilities. That would be a fun thing to do. Although that one's got a retreat cost of 3, making it really awkward to get out the active, so it's not quite so lovely. My point is, hit and run attacks are kind of fun. We've got some decent walls right now. We've got ways to increase the poison, and if you want to play this as a hit and run deck with like Galarian Casola and Toxicroak, there is some fun to be had here. If nothing else, remember that Crobat gives up a bunch of prizes, but is largely used as a support Pokemon. And Dedenne has got an attack which gets it back into your hand, so it's not giving up 2 prizes. Shaymin had an attack. It's been banned and expanded, didn't you hear? I did a video, check a link in the description. And that had an attack which got it back into your hand, so it didn't give up 2 prizes. It wasn't just sitting there on your bench as a 2-prize liability. Eldegoss has got an attack which shuffles it into your deck, getting it off the board as a 2-prize liability. All these support Pokemon have an attack which get it out of harm's way, except for Crobat. And going to the bench isn't as good as going into your hand or deck to be reused later, but it's still a kind of an advantage. Now, I'll be honest with you, the second attack here is significantly less interesting, and I am not terribly excited. 2 darkness, 1 colorless energy, 180 damage. Yay! And the thing is, if you're hitting for weakness, you're up to 360, and that's anything you like. If you're not hitting for weakness, you'll get an opposing Crobat. You'll get an Eldegoss. You'll get a Dedenne. These support Pokemon we keep talking about will go down in one hit. You'll get the majority of single, or pretty much all single prize Pokemon. And you'll get very, very rarely some other Pokemon Vs. So we've already mentioned Morpeko's terrible HP once this video, let's do it again. Morpeko V's got 170 HP, so that will go down here. But then you're 2-hit KOing everything else for free energy on a VMAX. No. Just no. Like, in terms of attacking, we could put Crobat next to Snorlax VMAX, and they've got the same weakness, but in pretty much every way, Snorlax is better. You've got an extra 40 HP, which is pretty gosh darn good. You've got an attack, which is free energy, but it's an evolved Pokemon, so you can use triple acceleration energy to pay it in a single turn. Or you can use Welder or literally any other type of energy acceleration, because it's all colorless energy. And with a full bench, you should be doing 210 damage. 60 base plus 30 for each of your bench Pokemon. 30 times 5 is 150, add 60, 210. So you should have an extra 40 HP, do an extra 30 damage, and have an easier to pay attack. As an attacker, this second attack gives me basically nothing, and I'm not a fan. The first attack, I do think there is cause for occasional excitement regarding the first attack. I think the first attack could be cool. I think the first attack can make a really fun hit and run deck if you want to be playing around with poison, and I think that's awesome. But don't play this for the second attack. Play it for the first attack, which, it's a fun hit and run attack. And maybe a free prize Pokemon is too much. Maybe 70 damage is too little. But this is a good hit and run attack. Now, the real reason to play Crobat, and this is not very interesting, for which I can only apologise, the HP. Essentially, what Crobat does here is Crobat V has 180 HP and is in range of something like, oh, I don't know, Arceus and Dialga and Palkia, which will often try and use boss's orders to KO 2 Crobat and win the game, because they're easily KO'd and by either ADP or by Zacian, and then each of them gives up 3 prizes and they win the game there and then. But if you VMAX, then all of a sudden Zacian's hitting 260, which is not that close, and ADP's hitting 180, which is miles away. And the thing is, yes, sure, you give up 4 prizes, but does it really matter? They were taking 3 off of Crobat, so KOing 2 of them wins the game. so I'm not really worried about that. And actually, it might not have an attack which stops it being a 2-prize liability, but honestly, my favourite thing about Crobat VMAX is just the fact that it can ruin your opponent's numbers. Reshiram and Charizard, how much does that hit? Well, 230. Yeah, they're not getting a KO. Pikachu and Zekrom's GX attack, how much does that hit? 200. Yeah, they're not getting an attack. All of a sudden, multiple Pokemon that are relying on being able to get a one-hit KO on Crobat aren't getting a one-hit KO on Crobat. That's the main reason to play Crobat VMAX. And I'm sorry if that's not quite as exciting as you were hoping. I'm sorry if you were hoping for some phenomenal attacks that are going to break this card wide open. It doesn't have them. It's got a quite nice, useful first attack, but that is the best we can say, unfortunately. Hey-ho. At least it's got large HP. I'm still giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. Because the fact of the matter is, I still think this is going to see a bunch of play, if for no other reason than the extra HP. But if it's going to see a bunch of play, got to give it a half-decent score. But I'd like to know what you think, ladies and gentlemen. So go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.